Welcome to this week's episode of The Higher Self. We have Lorna Byrne, author of Angels in
My Hair.
Angels in My Hair. But I got a little story to tell you. So I think I've mentioned this on one of the episodes before. I don't ever really know who I'm interviewing just because I'd like to stay authentic, to the conversation. And I don't want to have any preconceived notions or anything. And so I'm sitting downstairs. I get here a little bit early and I see this beautiful lady walk by me with this wonderful smile. And she looks at me and I look at her and I just like smiled at you. And I kid you not, I go, I think that's the lady I'm interviewing. But I had no idea what you looked like, anything, but you just had such nice energy. Do you remember that moment?
I do. I was going to the ladies.
Oh, okay.
And I noticed you because your guardian angel, the light of your guardian angel had opened up and just said, this is him.
Really?
No name. This is him. And I just walked back and I walked to the ladies, didn't glance at you, just, but when I came back out, I couldn't help but smile because I knew this is him.
Yeah, which is just so interesting how I felt this is her, essentially. That's really weird.
Yeah.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about like what you do. You obviously have a gift. You obviously have written some books.
I always find it hard to answer that question because I'm only me. I can't be anything else, only me.
Can we just pause for a second? That's when you know they're the real deal, by the way. That's when you know, when they don't have a title, when they don't have when there's you just me being me. I love that answer.
Yeah, I'm just me, and I suppose that's why I find it very hard to answer that question. And I suppose, when I think back to my childhood, my best friends, my teachers was God and the angels because I was considered retarded. Because I'm severely dyslexic. So way in Ireland, way back then, they didn't even know of dyslexic. So you were treated as if you were, sorry to say, thick, dumb and stupid, in that way. But one thing the angels always did was tell me they know no better. And I just smile and I love everyone because I know you know no better, and that's okay. I love you anyway. It doesn't matter what I would have been called at that time, or even when, I got older and got married and all of that, because nothing is about me. It's about you. It's about everyone in the whole world. You are all something. I'm nothing. I'm just doing what God has asked me to do. I've just planted the seed of love for the last 20 years. And I love seeing that seed of love spread throughout the world. So many people opening up and wanting to know more about their soul, God. That awareness, that spirituality, that awakening. And to me, that is incredible. And just hearing from people all over the world, of all faiths and none, ask me the simple question, Lorna, do they have a guardian angel? Do they have a soul? And everyone has. I've travelled all over the world now. Well, not every country, but an awful lot. And I've never seen a human being without a guardian angel. So everyone has a soul. And to me, that is incredible. And I wish mankind would just wake up, become a little bit more aware that we're not just a human being, we're a spiritual being. We have that connection to God. And I don't understand human beings at all, by the way.
You and me both.
I find it so confusing. But I don't understand why, and yet in one way I do, why you can't see all I see physically. I know you can see this and you can see me here, you can see the table, all this, but there's loads more to see. And I think we just lost that through, sadly to say, religion in that way.
Absolutely.
But again, through power and material. you're told now you're to achieve, and why don't you just be you? You're unique already. Just allow that intertwining to happen of the soul and the human body. Just take another little step. I ask people to take another little step and just love yourself. You're so precious. I've been telling people for such a long time now, how can you love anyone any more than you love yourself? You can't. And I suppose we've been bashed so much. I even see children today. That's why I hug everyone, because I have hugged children, even teenagers, people in their 30s and 40s, 70s and 80s. And I tell them I love them because I do. I don't need to know who you are or where you come from. Or in other people's eyes, you may be considered not a good person. I love you anyway. I don't care. But when you hear the answer back and someone says to you, of all ages, no one has ever hugged me before or said they love me. You're the first. And that's so sad. We should be loving each other. Why are we fighting? I don't understand why mankind is doing what they're doing when there is no need, when I've been shown so many. And you ask me, what do? I don't know. I'm just me. I know I write the books. I know I give workshops. I know God unfolded an incredible miracle. We have the sanctuary in Ireland, and that's an incredible story. And people are coming from all over the world to do workshops with us. Everything is, to me, even my children, like I'm flabbergasted, if you know what that word means. I don't know what God is up to, but I love everyone, and I wish I could do way more. I don't do enough. I want to help everyone, but everyone has to be more open. But people are opening, even young people. We're having a lot of young people now coming to the sanctuary from America, from all over Europe, and some of them are only 15, 17, 19, 20. And they might come with their parents, and then they insist on doing the workshop. And then when it's over, they tell you, wow, this has been wonderful. This has changed me. And they're that young age. Like, God is real. Your soul is real. You've a beautiful soul, and you've that guardian angel that cannot leave you for 1 second and loves you unconditionally. Even if you don't love yourself, it loves you no matter what. And I just love the way, it never leaves you for 1 second. And I suppose when I had written Angels in My Hair, can't read or write, all my life.
So you can't read or write?
No.
And you have written how many books?
7 or 8, I think.
That is incredible.
Like, thanks to technology, but I wish technology was better. Okay. It's actually not as good as everyone thinks. I wish it was, because if it was, it would make it much easier for me in that way. But even as a child, I would have been giving out to God and the angels all the time about different things that would have been happening. My family were very poor. Even when we got married, when I married Joe, I already knew the future. I knew, and my daughter is there, that he would die young and he would leave us. And I knew of all his illnesses and the way things would be. But there's always one part that I love, and that's when I was going out with Joe at the time, and I was sitting in the car outside my parents' house, and I just said to him, because God and the angels were saying, you have to tell him. And I was saying, no. I'm always saying no, by the way, till God gets me to say yes. And I eventually just said to him one day, sitting in the car, by the way, I see angels physically, and I always remember his hands on the steering wheel and he turning and looking at me. And he just said, only priests and nuns see angels, have spiritual experiences. And he just looked at me in such a strange way. And I just said to God and the angels, that's it, he's gone. And he gives me a peck on the cheek and I run into the house. But he did call the next day, but he never said anything. He never said anything for years. It was really only when his health started to get worse, he started to ask questions, and he started to look into anything about spirituality, and sometimes, he'd read the Bible to me or the Quran to me or something he found somewhere, and of course detective books. I love thrillers as well because of that. So it's hard to answer that question, what do I do? I do what God has asked me, and it's still a miracle unfolding. But the one wonderful thing is that the miracle is unfolding for millions of people as well.
That's right, it is.
And that's what it's about. That's why I say it's not about me.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm nothing. You're something. Everyone out there. And I always tell everybody that, God and the angels taught me everything out in nature. Our planet is so important. We have this wonderful gift we were given for nothing. And because we were given it for nothing, the way we treat it, is terrible. I do have to smile because sometimes at a workshop, there might be a group of people there and I ask them, well, what do you do for a living? And they might tell you they're a lecturer in Oxford or something like that, or they're some kind of teacher or some kind of scientist or, an ordinary husband and wife, that has an ordinary job. There is such a mix, and yet they're all in search. The world at the moment is in search of, is God real? Do we have a soul? Am I lovable? And of course you're lovable, but you have to love you. Mm-hmm. And everything comes back to love.
Tell me something. You said that you've been spreading love for 20 years. Like, was there a moment when all of this happened? Was there a moment when you physically started to see angels?
I have seen angels from the time I opened my eyes as an infant, from the moment I was born. I didn't know they were angels. I write in angels in my hair, my mom bending over the cot, and fixing the cot, and I lying in it, and I trying to reach up, one thing my mother would have said, was that I never paid attention to anyone else, but why would I? In that sense, I've seen angels all my life, and they've taught me everything I know. Like, why doesn't everyone have all the knowledge I have? Like, people of all faiths come. Like, back there a number of years ago, I got a terrible shock because, the first person that came up to me was a bishop and asked me, was God real? And I was shocked. And as soon as that happened, those of other religions like imams and I forget all the names, I'm no good at that, ministers, priests, nuns, rabbis, people of all different faiths come and ask me, is God real? Surely they know God is real.
No, they can't.
Puzzles me.
No,
Surely
they
know.
can't. They can't know because just by being a part of a religion, you unknowingly cannot be in the frequency of love because because you are separate. You are separate from other people, and you are separate from God because the mind believes. You know?
Yeah, I love the way you say that, because that just makes me think, God has kept me separate from the world, but yes, God is real. And I always say to people, you should don't wait till the last moment when your human body dies to discover that. Discover that now, and let that intertwining happen of the human body and the soul. You won't get sick at that stage.
You absolutely will not.
No.
It's impossible.
And I love that. And you won't even grow old. You'll grow up. But I always tell people, try and be like a child again.
That's right.
Take a few steps back in time and be like a child again. Allow yourself to see the wonders. Because most people just look around a room. They're not seeing. I better let you talk now, because I'm after talking.
I'm enjoying this. That's okay. Hey, friends, thanks for watching. I don't ever ask you for much, but this week I have an ask. If you are a follower or listener of The Higher Self, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us at, and leave a rating. Let us know what you think about the episodes, about the show. You have no idea how much it helps us to grow the show and grow the audience. And we love your feedback. And I want you to know that we take it seriously in the guests that we have and in the content that we're putting out. So once again, make sure that you leave a rating, leave us a comment wherever you're listening, and make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss another episode again. So let me ask you, it's so interesting you just brought that up, because I have a daughter, and she's 9 months old. And her level of, number one, flexibility in the body. The way that the body is able to move for her. And I'm sitting there looking at her in wonder. And, now that I understand the way the body and energy works, it's like, well, of course you're that flexible, because the body isn't storing anything. There's no trauma, there's no hurt, there's just love. Yeah. But the second thing is, I notice how confidence is not even the word. How do I explain it? Because it feels like confidence is like, it's separate than one, right?
Yeah.
How all-knowing she is. Like she just does. There is no, if she doesn't want it, she doesn't want it. If she wants it, she wants it. If she's happy, I just, because I've done so much work, and I help people in this work, and I'm sitting there looking at her like, she doesn't know limitation.
No, she doesn't. She's a little soul that has only come home from heaven, and she's completely open. So even when she brushes something away, you only see the physical thing, but she's seeing all the light and the energy and the colors coming from that, maybe even sparks, maybe even lines, maybe even patterns. She's seen so much more. So why shouldn't she brush it away? Because she knows what's going to happen, and she might scream and laugh. She might even cry, because in a sense, maybe when she brushes away, it tingles and gives her a little fright. What's that? That's something new in that way. So she's seeing, but we close our children.
We do.
We close them because we tell them that if something is not solid, it's not real. But there's so much more than, I could tell you loads, but I just keep talking.
It's okay.
It's like, your daughter probably doesn't even see this table as solid, just that things stay on it. She's probably seen, in a sense, depending on where she is, maybe she's seen the bottle, but she's seeing so much more of the bottle, even of the water. And she's seeing the reflection coming through the wood, because the wood isn't solid either. Sorry, I could give you a huge lesson on all of that.
I'm just sitting here listening. I'm just
well,
sitting here.
I think you'll have to come to Ireland and come to one of the workshops, and
Okay.
maybe we share a workshop or something.
Okay, beautiful.
We do that, and I know my daughter and those that are helping us, because I couldn't do this all on my own. You're there now. There's other people there. My daughter would say, well, we put a name on a workshop, but the name means nothing to me, because if there's people there, it's actually what they need. So everything, forget what we have, Pearl has said and the team has said that the workshop will be about. And everyone is accepting that now, because, when you see the things that happen, and how people sometimes in a moment are healed or realize something, or, like we've often had, on umpteen occasions, husbands and wives coming, and the husband say he never believed in any of this. He only came this time to please his wife. She dragged him along, he knew nothing. He would say, my wife has read all your books and she's always looking at things, and he thought, she was crazy or whatever, but came. And, so many times they've turned around and said, it has been such, what's the words they use? An eye-opener. It has changed every way they look on everything now. But that's what it's about. It's about those that come, and when they leave, the seed has been sown, and everyone else they touch, they tell me they try to not take things personal.
Mm-hmm.
They try to show love instead. If someone is screaming at them, they don't look for revenge back. If someone has hurt them, they try not to hurt back, but they are finding it hard. So the world has to work on it. We have to forgive ourselves, because everything that has happened in the world, you and I have caused it.
That's right.
You and I have, we're part of the pain and the hurt that we've caused. So we have to, in a sense, forgive ourselves and forgive others. We've got to, reach out to the person that needs help and not judge and criticize, regardless of their beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. We've to reach out that helping hand. I give out to God about that and the angels all the time, because I had to say to God and the angels, if you had given me more, then I could give more, in that way. So I give out to God, because I do see at times where people have so much and they don't want to share.
Mm-hmm.
They're angry because we were so poor that it was, you'd be growing some vegetables in the garden, and, you'd be out in the garden in the winter and you'd be breaking, some of the vegetable that would have frozen in the cold, and your hands would be blue. And, even at Christmas time, I know how poor is. We did have a roof over our head, a little cottage, but sometimes we couldn't pay the ESB and it would be turned off. At times there was no food for Christmas, literally none. And I always remember one time someone put some money in the letterbox, and we found a Christmas morning. So we all went to Mass with the children, and we had that money. And one shop in Maynooth would open on Christmas morning. And we went in, bought bread, butter, milk, chicken, a few biscuits. And that was our Christmas. And that was such a treat. It was just absolutely, I found out who it was without them even knowing, because I asked God who was it, and I was told who it was, in that way. So we have to, I just give out to God, why can't I do more? I did give out to God for making me a woman, by the way. I said, why didn't you make me a man? Because more people would listen. When you're a woman, they don't listen as much in that way, but yet I see God changing it around, bringing it around, because it's
the energy is definitely shifting right now.
It is
We're going
shifting
more into the feminine energy.
Yeah. So you ask me, what do I do? People come, to the sanctuary. I've traveled all around the world, given workshops and talks, and you'd have to ask the people.
Yeah.
I can't answer that question.
I have a question.
Okay.
What does it physically look like to see an angel?
I love that question.
What
does it physically look like?
Yeah.
It's right there. And
here?
Yes, right there. And the same with the man over there as well, and my daughter.
Yeah.
And of course other angels that are in the room. To me, it's normal, you see. So I don't go, way, I see an angel. Because it's normal. From the time I opened my eyes, I saw them. I didn't know they were angels, and it was only maybe when I was about 2 or 2.5 and I was running around, and, then at times, maybe when I was 3 or 4, I was playing with my brother. But you have to remember, I was so young and I didn't ask many questions. My mom and dad, my sister and all were my family, and, neighbors would come in, but I was seeing the angels as well. They were my family. They're part of my family. And it was just one day I was playing with my brother at the fire, and the fire didn't bother him, but you have to remember how young I was. And we were playing with little wooden blocks my dad had made out of wood. And we were piling them one on top of the other. And they fell. It was, our hands touched, but it was like my hand went into his and all sparks flew.
You and your brother?
Yes.
How old were you?
I would say I was maybe 4. I can never pinpoint, but I was very young.
But you still remember that?
Oh, yeah. But it was then that the angels told me that they were angels and I must keep it a secret and tell no one. But my little brother, who was older than me all the time, but I still call him my little brother, was a soul. He had died at 10 weeks. And you have to remember, I was so young, I didn't question, because sometimes my mom would fall asleep in this armchair.
Wait, hang on, time out.
Time up.
So your little brother died at 10 weeks.
Yes.
But when you were 4, you didn't realize he wasn't a physical...
No.
He was a soul.
He was a soul. I saw him as perfect as I see you.
Wow.
Humanly sitting there in the chair. But at times I would see him as an infant in my mom's arms when she'd be asleep in the chair. But I was so young. I still don't ask questions today.
Right.
I just accept what I'm shown, what I'm taught. I don't, like people say, why don't you ask all of these questions? But sometimes when I do ask a question, it could be 30 years later and that question is answered, or part of that question, because one thing God has said is, for each question, there's 1,000,000 answers and 1,000,000 questions to each answer. And it goes on and on. It's like, how would I say? It's like the mysteries. We're only being given so much knowledge and wisdom, and yet it's there for us. We all can. You should be able to see, hear, feel everything, and lots more than that, and I can't understand why. But the only reason I can, in a sense, understand a little is that I was born severely dyslexic and no one took any notice of me. So don't ask me why God and the angels decided to allow me to see them and for that not to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you shouldn't allow it to be broken for your child either.
No.
You know, do your best that it's not broken. But education, I'm afraid, what would you say? It controls us. It controls man at the moment, you know, and controls children, because children are young people. I'm just remembering a young man I met, and, you know, he's an A student and he's somewhere in the world and he's studying. And I just asked him, you know, what do you really want to do spiritually? You know, and he said, spiritually, I'd love to go to space and see creation itself. And that's the way he put it. And please God, he does, because he's focused on just being him, not listening to everyone else. Right. And wanting to be up there where the stars are. And when he looks back, of course, he'll see creation. You know, he'll see our planet, you know, and creation is still happening. And I love the way God has, for what reason, I don't know, why God gave us human beings, whether we were a little dot or whatever, he gave us this spark of light of God himself, our soul. And I just love that, because we as human beings are creators. We're all the time creating, where you watch nature and it'll only repeat, but we change. We're creating all of the time, except now we're being limited because we're being told what to create instead of being ourselves spiritually and just connecting to God, allowing that knowledge and wisdom to come in, to open our eyes and allow ourselves to be healed. You know, like people would say to me, oh, you had a really hard life. Because when they read Angels in My Hair, like, and the other books, but to me it wasn't hard. You know, life, God has been preparing me all my life. And even though I was always saying no and giving out, but God knew I would eventually say yes. But it would be, I suppose maybe we could say at the right time or the right moment. You know, I always remember being in my aunt's house and being upstairs and standing on where the hall is, the banisters of the stairs, and just saying to God, why couldn't I be a nun or something, or even a priest? And I love the way God was just standing beside me, kneeling over the banisters as well, and just said, they wouldn't have you, Lorna. And I asked why, and he said, you know why? You know, I was annoyed with God that time. I'm always given out, by the way. Sorry, I don't even know if I answered your question.
That's okay. That's okay. I still want to know what does it look like? What is it like? What do you see?
Jews. It's very hard. They're light, and they give such a human appearance inside that light. That light becomes, just say, this bottle is that light, and they give a human appearance. All that light becomes a human appearance, and they're extremely beautiful. They always are. I've never seen an angel look any other way at all. But the one thing about them, even when you look at this water in the bottle, and you could imagine it's just light, it's like as if you can step into them. But I love another thing about angels is that they love us and adore us. And of course, you know why your guardian angel never leaves you for 1 second, because it's the gatekeeper of your soul, and why other angels are in and around us all the time. I know I'll get into trouble for saying this, but it's because they are in the presence of God because of your soul. Because your soul is that spark of light of God. And that's everyone, and it doesn't matter what religion you are. We have to, I ask people to try and be better. And I love your guardian angel because, and they're neither male nor female, okay? but your guardian angel is giving a male appearance at the moment. And how would I say? I just asked them shrink a bit. in that way, they are enormous, but yet they can be in proportion, but always yet bigger than us. In that way, it's giving a male appearance. And the clothing, I love the way angels don't have to take on and off their clothing. It just changes. Literally just changes. And I often say, I wish that could happen for us, because I would love that in that way. But the colors aren't the same as our colors here in the human world. So I always try to give as close as I possibly can to a human color. Okay. And I'm trying to do that now as I'm looking and talking. And your guardian angel is just saying, and I'm talking back, I'm not saying that to him.
You could say whatever.
Do more.
Do more.
Do more.
That resonates.
Do more. Your guardian angel is, because everything your guardian angel allows in and around you and things to change, God has already agreed on that. Your guardian angel can never do anything without, let's say, humanly to understand God's permission. And I'm trying to give this color, and it's really hard. It's like this emerald prune color that is full of light. And it's like, again, I could walk into your guardian angel, step in, but I'm asking your guardian angel, why can't you make this simpler? Like cut it on that. But how can I describe? There's like a golden light all the time appearing, like all the way through. And it's like, I want to reach in and take that and give it to you. For you yourself to open more. Like, you should be able to see the energy here. Can you see it? Why can't you?
I normally see like a haze of an outline, but that's about it.
Well, you should be able to see it here.
Okay.
As well. And I know at times I'm helping people to see, and they always say, Lorna, we can start to see it when we're around you, but we find it hard when we're not around you. But that shouldn't be the case.
Sure.
That's just you losing faith in God, of allowing yourself to see. Because even in the Bible and the Quran, all the holy books, God talks about, what way, I can't put it in English that way, sorry. Well, God talks about, there's more in this world than we realize. And yes, it's what's here between us, what's over here between the man there, the screen. Technology is good, but it's not really that good. We think it is. And I know, like I was told, I would get into trouble if I keep talking about a time will come when we connect and become more aware spiritually, and we heal. We allow that intertwining, and it starts to gradually happen. And in a sense, our bodies become healthier and healed. And we won't need that technology.
We won't need that. Yeah.
Oh, and I think that's incredible. So why can't you see what I see? You should be well able to.
Yeah.
If I started to look at you in another way, just, how would I say, I would start to see into your body. So after, I'm going to ask you a question when we're not on the show. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. I shouldn't have done that.
No, you could do, no. You know, there, no holds barred here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing
Okay.
is that we are, on this show, we are working to help people to see what they can't see.
Yeah, we just have to become aware and aware that you have a guardian angel. You know, your guardian angel is the, what would I say, you know, the key, you know, that connection, because it is the gatekeeper of your soul. And your soul is that spark of light of God. God is within you.
That's right.
So realize what you're capable of. You know, so much more. We turn off our creativity because we think we have to be like the famous person. What we create, we copy of someone else. We shouldn't be copying. We shouldn't want to be like someone else. We should only want to be like ourselves. That's why sorry, but I only can be me. Like you see me, that's all. When I get out of here and get back somewhere, all this makeup is coming off because I hate it. You know, it covers you. You know, in that way, to be yourself is so important, and to allow your soul to step forward, allow it to take that little. You know, it can be so tiny, but to take that step and allow your, how would I say, the energy of the human body to expand. But the most powerful energy is the soul, not the human body at all.
And how does one do that? What would be like the first step?
I think the first step is becoming, you know, conscious and acknowledging that you have a soul, you have that spark of light of God, and that God is within you, and you want to be better. And it's like your child. You know, I have said to parents, you know, sometimes I meet a mom that's pregnant and I say, well, when your child is born, ask your child. Don't just teach your child dada, mama, you know, in that way. But ask your child when it's a tiny infant, you know, how's your guardian angel? How's your soul today? You know, and I know when that little infant realizes that you are openly asking, they will respond, or they'll give you a look and say, how do they know? You know, it's kind of to allow ourselves humanly to become aware, you know, to become conscious and to say to ourselves, you know, what have I got to lose? You've nothing to lose, only to discover.
So I've recently been obsessed with learning about supplements because I found out all of the shady tactics that happen in the industry, like how natural flavors are far from natural, or get this, how some vitamins are derived from GMO corn syrup. I know, it's disgusting. This is why it's so important to trust the company you buy your supplements from. And there's only one company on planet Earth I trust, and that's Kono. I've never seen a higher standard in the industry where literally every single ingredient is ethically sourced with intention. I've been absolutely loving their full body hydrate product. It's the most comprehensive and I think best tasting electrolyte on the planet. It helps my brain function. I feel like it's helping my skin. I feel more hydrated, and overall, I just feel incredible throughout the day when I drink it. But all in all, guys, all of their supplements are incredible. I'm passionate about sharing them with you guys because these guys have your health at heart. Check them out at kononutrition.com/Danny and get 10% off your order. Again, that's kononutrition.com/Danny for 10% off your order. Do you think religion blocks people from consciousness?
I know I get into trouble, but
Just say it.
Yes. There's so much.
I know it does.
Yeah.
And I say that I know it does because I can now look back on my life and I could see how it did. And, I get into trouble. I don't think you can ever get into trouble. You say things so softly and so sweetly. I say things pretty aggressively sometimes. But what I discovered was that, and this is something that I've been working on in my journey, what I discovered is that the part of me that would say things aggressively and angrily was parts of me that was still angry at myself. Yeah. And so the more and more that goes away, now I want to have a conversation so that, when a beautiful soul is out there listening to this episode, like if you are fed that your religion is the way, well, then maybe, just maybe, you could open up to being fed something else, right? And then you could all you would have to do is tap into your heart, like become aware of what you feel and let truth speak to you. So when I ask you that, it's because I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Well, I have to say, religion as well. I was brought up Catholic, but yet I was seeing the angels. They were teaching me everything I know. And I'm still learning, by the way. And if some spiritual teacher turns around and tells you they know everything, they don't, because I don't. I'm still learning,
in
that way. But religion did help us become aware spiritually, but yet it was controlled. And it was controlled because the human part of mankind wanted control over mankind itself, wanted that power, in that way. And that's the sad part. Like, sometimes when I give talks, or, people of all religions come, and as I said, like, I've had so many meetings in the past there with imams, priests, the odd bishop, in that way, ministers. I don't even know the names, but the one thing we have to remember is it's the one God. But every religion wants to claim it's their God.
That's right.
And God has millions of names. Like, people will say, Lorna, why don't you say Jesus? And I know I've answered that question in the book, because when technology started to come in and all that miracle started to unfold, that was one thing I said to God, what am I going to call you? I'm going to be ridiculed and laughed at. I know what it's like to be considered retarded, a vegetable in that way. I can't read or write. So what am I to call you? I named out, do I call you Jesus? Do I call you Father? Do I call you Son? Do I call you Allah? I just named out a whole load of names. And God just stood there, looking at me, and just said, Lorna, what do you call me? And I was putting my hands on my hips and just looking at God and saying, God, of course, like that. God, of course, why are you asking me that silly question? And God said, the word God is universal, because everyone knows who you're talking about, regardless of what religion you belong to or what you don't belong to. In that way. So I nearly always just say God, because the word God is universal.
Yeah.
And it's faith. We have science trying to prove that God exists or doesn't exist, that creation exists or doesn't exist. And I am writing a book with a scientist. The manuscript is finished. And it's a scientist that had red angels in my hair. But you have to remember, he was reading it through the eyes of a scientist and saw within it things that kind of flabbergasted him in that way. So made him question and think of theories in that way. So hopefully that book may come out within the next year. And I know a lot is about his life story, but the little science part is in it as well, but only part of what had happened in that way, and what he felt he discovered when reading Angels in My Hair and the other books. I would have had, from the time Angels in My Hair came out, I've had scientists approach me and just say, I believe everything you say, but I have to deny it because I will lose my credibility. And then I always remember one scientist turned around and said, Lorna, if a scientist says to you something is impossible, then they are not a scientist, because everything is possible. And everything is possible.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that book coming out, but I'm looking forward to the books I'm working on myself, but I give out to God because God doesn't give me much time, in that way. So I do ask God, can you not make things a little easier? But we'll wait and see.
I love that. I love that. How do people find out more about your work, your workshops?
Well, that part I'm no good at.
Okay.
All as I can say is Angels in My Hair. You will find me on the internet. Is that what you call it?
Yeah. Instagram?
Yeah. Lorna Byrne.com, is it?
Yeah. Is that what it is? Yes. Okay.
LornaByrne.com.
Okay.
And you'll, we do so much, maybe I'll share with you, I do extreme cases, but even before Angels in My Hair came out, people would turn up at the gate and they knew nothing about me. They literally knew nothing. They might be looking for directions or ask, do you have a cup of tea? I'm lost. We often had truck drivers, saying, listen, we're exhausted, we're lost. And this could be at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and knock on the door, and we let them sleep on the couch and give them a cup of tea. And then Joe and I would go to bed. The kids would be fast asleep, or somebody would knock at the gate and just say, I'm lost. And the angels tell me to invite them in, and you'd have them sit at the table, make them tea, share your bread, because the few slices we had was probably all we had, and you share it with them. And then they would tell you a story of their life and what they're going through. And I would ask God for healing for them. Without them knowing, they wouldn't know. People would just come and share in that way. And then sometimes it ended up where someone I just remember this family coming to the gate, and they had a little boy with them, and the little boy was sick, and I invited them in, and they had tea, and I don't want to put too much out there, but on different times, they would turn up at the house again. Don't know where they lived, because no point telling me where you live, really, because I'm not good that way. And the little boy just said, when Mummy and Daddy went out to the car or whatever they did to get something, and the little boy said, Lorna, my guardian angel is telling me I'm going home soon, and I'm telling Mum and Dad, but they're not listening. And that was very hard to tell the parents. You had to tell them in a way. You couldn't say, by the way, your child is going home to heaven shortly. I said to them, spend every moment you have with your child, forget everything else.
Yeah.
Because nothing else was important. So even one parent has allowed us to share a story, and the world already knows part of it, and that's of Noah. And Noah was a young boy who came to a talk when I was on tour in Germany. And when he walked in with his mom and someone else, I just said to God, the theatre was almost empty. And I just said to God, will I go to the child? Because I could see straight away. And God said no. So I always do what God says. If he says no, okay, I won't. And the theatre filled up. And part of the miracle was that nobody in that audience, and I think at that time there was 750 to 1,000 people there, like every seat was full. They never saw him. So I gave the interview. There was a journalist asking loads of questions, and then it came to questions and answers, and loads of people were asking questions. And then the young boy stands up, and the whole place went silent. You could hear a pin drop. No one sniffed, no one coughed, nothing. It was like at that moment, God allowed everyone to see this child. And this child just said, Lorna, I don't have a question, but I knew better. He said, I would just want to tell you my guardian angel is my best friend. And then he said, Lorna, do you think you could ask God for the gift of life? And again, it was like no one even blinked their eyes. There was no movement. It's like God put a cloud over everyone, and yet everyone was facing this child. Nobody's clothes rustled or anything. It was just a complete stillness when the child asked, could I ask God for the gift of life? Because everyone in that audience had the gift of life. You have the gift of life. The man over there has the gift of life. Millions of people out there have the gift of life, but he didn't have. And all this I could say, because I already knew. I had already been told. So I said to him, I will give him a blessing, and I'll pray and ask God for the gift of life. So Noah became an extreme case. And then the other miracle happened. The sanctuary appeared, where that property where we are now today. And he came to it.
Noah did.
Noah did.
Beautiful.
And every time he came and went back home, the doctors couldn't figure out how he was still alive. God gave him extra time. And we have such photographs of him, and he had such fun. And we have a huge tree that we call Noah's tree, because we have this photograph where he took the ivy off it, but he had this piece of ivy and he was swinging on it, So just God sends extreme cases all the time. But even before Angels in My Hair came out, and nobody knew, people would just appear at the gate, or students from the college, because I was living in Maynooth in the cottage in that time. I always remember one of the students that were staying in our house in the cottage brought this other student up, and seemingly this other student had nothing to eat for days. And I had myself and the children had gone out and picked loads of berries, and we had made jam a few days before. We didn't have jars to put it into, so we had it in this big bowl. And the student that brought this young man up just said to me afterwards, Lorna, I couldn't say a word. He ate the whole bowl of jam because he was so hungry.
Yeah.
Just things like that and are still happening.
Yeah.
But I just ask God, I'd love to do more. And one thing God has said is, and these are God's words, many are called, few are chosen, and very few of those few chosen say yes. But why we have the sanctuary is because some Americans said yes, and then afterwards other people said yes to restore it, to do all that we're doing. But I would keep telling God, please send more manna from heaven so we can help more.
Yeah.
Help others to say yes, that have it.
Yeah.
Because you can't take anything to heaven with you. So why not? If God has given you abundance, don't think you can take it to heaven with you. Like I always remember saying to one man who had plenty, He came to see me after Angels in My Hair came out. And he said, Lorna, what can I do to change? And I just said to him, well, you could employ a father, a family, put them into a house on your property.
Beautiful.
And give them a job and make sure their children are educated. But no, that would cost me money. He wouldn't do it.
Well, he wasn't ready.
No, he has never done it, which is sad.
Yeah.
Like we can't, even the clothes off our back, we can't take to heaven with us.
Sure.
So yeah, we are changing and the world is changing. And when Angels in My Hair came out, God told me to say to people that everyone has to stand up and be counted and play their part.
I love that right there.
Watching that happen over the years, because everyone is becoming more educated, and most of us are looking for what's fair, but some of us only want for ourselves. You can't want just for yourself. It has to be fair for everybody. Everybody has the right to live. The right to be happy, to love, the right to have a roof over their head, an education, and I know education is going to change. Everyone has the right to have a home and a job and, all the normal things.
Yeah.
But it's not about material things. Spirituality is not about material things in the sense that material things are not the most important things. It's your loved ones. It's your neighbors. It's the human being beside you. It's nature. And so many people learn that the hard way. Like I've had so many families that would turn around and say, if God would work a miracle for my loved one, I'd give everything I have. But we should have been giving everything we had before that.
Yeah. Understood. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for I'm sorry for talking so much.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You have a passion for what you do. I understand.
Lots of people would ask me, is this my dream or my destiny? No. It's not my dream. It's not I never knew those words before. It's not. There's another word they use.
Purpose.
Purpose. This is all God's doing. It's not mine, so it has never been my dream. It has never been my purpose. I'm just doing what God asked me, and that's why I say I'm nothing. You are something. Everyone out there, you're the most important thing in the world. It has nothing to do with me. I'm nothing. You're something. You're incredible.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for being here. And thank you for the work that you do.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having us on your show.
Absolutely. I hope a lot of people go to the sanctuary. It sounds like a beautiful place.
And you'll have to come. And you'll have to do some work there with us and discover or whatever plan God puts into place.
For sure.
We just trust and have faith.
I love that. Thank you. And thank you guys for being here for this week's episode of The Higher Self.